Walter put in the bucket. Luckett is our guest today. Walter, welcome.
Thank you, Frank. I'm happy to be here. You're bringing back some memories.
Isn't that something? I hope your memories are as good as mine, because I was a freshman when you were a junior, and as a new student at Kolbe, the very first thing I got to do was go to basketball games and, being at the Sheehan Center when it was rocking. That was a place to be.
Yes, it was a real, I tell you, we had a lot of fun, and the student body was there 100%. And it was just a good time in the early 70s, Sports was paramount, and everybody wanted to be involved, whether you were playing or supporting. It was a good time. And also college was always the next step. That was always being reinforced. So you're right, Frank. It was a real exciting time.
We could talk about a lot of things that people already know. I'd like to go back and, I'm a fan of history. And so I always like to ask people about their personal cultures and their personal histories. Tell me about your parents. Where were they from?
Well, my mother and father are originally from Bridgeport, and I actually grew up on the east side of Bridgeport and married early in life. I had 3 brothers, so there's 4 of us in the family.
What did your dad do for a living?
He was a construction worker. And then later, believe it or not, he managed physical fitness, European health spa, believe it or not.
Was he athletic himself?
He claimed he was.
You didn't get to see it firsthand.
He played all sports but didn't master any of them. But he was a great support base and always read the paper. He used to read like 6, 7 papers, so he knew all about sports. So, yes, he was very knowledgeable about sports. And his participation was, minimal, but he was there to show us the way, and that was a great opportunity for us to grow.
Tell us about your mom.
She's still alive, thank you, God rest her. And then we that's my mother. We were so close. Matter of fact, I always call myself a mama's boy. Mm-hmm. We talk probably 3 times a day. She's a wonderful lady. Her sons are her whole life. Great mom, and really respected her immediate family. She has one sister that she's really close to, and it's just a wonderful opportunity for us to be raised by parents that really cared and shared. And like I said, I don't think they ever missed a game. And I'm talking about for all the boys. So it was, sports was always a big thing at the dinner table. We just could talk about, our experiences. So collectively, we were very, very close, and still to this day.
Were you raised Catholic, or were you not Catholic?
I started out Methodist, Catholic, and then I'm Baptist. So I kind of, but I've been Baptist for the last 35 years.
But you went to a Catholic school, obviously.
I went to a Catholic school,
So
yes.
What was that all about? How did you get into St. Augustine's, or why?
Well, believe it or not, we were playing Little League ball back in Black Rock Little League, and I don't know if you remember the name, Angelo Nacholi, who was a fireman. So he and my father were good friends. So we were playing baseball, and he talked about George Fasola and this guy who was at the Sheen Center, who really was structured, a real sports was very organized. He says, I think your sons will really benefit from being at the Sheen Center and learning organized sports. So the rest was history. We went there. I was in 7th grade, and then kind of just got that Sheen Center
When
experience.
did you start sports? Were you involved in Little League?
Oh, yeah. I was at Black Rock Little League was really where we started.
Why, because you were from Black Rock area?
Born and raised in P.T. Barnum.
Oh, okay. So you're a P.T. Barnum kid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then you went to Black Rock Little League.
Went to Black Rock Little League and had a great experience. Remember Jerry Johnson?
Yes.
So the Black Rock Little League, Mr. Pecan, Edwards. So we had a real great team. Actually, we were undefeated for many years, and I really thought I was going to play baseball, but then I just got I just got the bug for basketball, and then really put a lot of time and effort into that. And when you're working at the Sheen Center at the camps, and afterwards, I would just take 1,000 shots a day after the camp was over with, and just really loved just working and playing on my own.
So are you saying it was at the Sheehan Center where your skills?
Absolutely, yeah. When I was working at the day camps, and after the day camp, I would just stay there till the evening, just working on my game, working on the fundamentals, and then just shooting a lot, And I tell the kids to this day, the one thing about basketball, you got to really, basketball players are made in the summer. Because when you're playing during the league, you're pretty much under a coach's wing, but the things that you need to work on, you should be doing that in the summer. And then when you come back, if you perfect those skills, it'll show on the court when you're competing.
So when you were a kid, at what point did someone realize that there might be something special here?
When you think about it, that's a good question, Frank. I think I went on a trip with Charlie Bentley. We went to Providence. We were playing against Marvin Barnes, and I think that really that was my coming out. We went out. We were in.
How old were you?
I think I was 16, 17.
Oh, so you were already.
But no, I didn't realize that I had a future in it.
Right.
And I think I had something like 69 points in that game.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, this is something special. And, so afterwards, the confidence just came, and I just really challenged myself and tried to get better. So it was then that I knew I had the talent. And then when I started seeing the letters coming in at Kolbe after my sophomore year.
Well, your freshman year, you were playing varsity, right? At Kolbe.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You're
so,
right.
Lenny Lee knew your coach. He knew that you were going to be special for him.
Yeah. I think, but also the player needs to know that they have potential too, because sometimes, today you could be satisfied with and not improve yourself. I did see some opportunities to get better, and then I took advantage of it, and I think that's what happened. And I just really love putting the time in. I always say you got to do the work. My old saying at the camp says, if you don't go home tired, you didn't work hard. Right.
And what happened that you developed the shot behind your head? Was it heavy? Was the ball heavy? Were you a skinny little kid? Why did that happen?
That was a benchmark from remember Jim Fitzsimmons? Mm-hmm. He used to shoot the ball with his head, and I watched it as a kid. I said, wow, they really can't block this shot, because he extended his jump shot over his head, and so I kind of adopted it. And I was left-handed, he was right-handed, so that's basically what I got.
But you would think that would be less accuracy with so much movement.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe
you would think that.
You would think that, but if you practice every day and you work hard every day, the harder you work, the easier things get.
What was it like to be in Bridgeport? Did that help you at all to be around the other athletes that this town produced?
Oh yeah, when even in high school we had like 7 or 8 guys go Division I in my senior year, and then the Central team was it was just a great team with
Simo and Knight and
they were
Andre
awesome.
And
they were like number 1 in the country, I believe. So yeah, we had a lot of competition, I think, and that really made everybody step up a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the experience playing ball in Bridgeport, it was and then you got the Franco Lennox of the world, and Barry McLeod. So, and then you had Fairfield Prep. So there was always a.
I remember Fairfield Prep. They're smart kids. They had one guy in front of you and one behind you.
Oh, you remember that?
I was at that
game. yeah, you got a great memory.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great experience. I think sports in Bridgeport will always be something that young people could take advantage of. But my true challenge now, Frank, is really to get the kids to have the experience we had by, being able to go D1. And I think a lot of the young guys today have to realize that you have to be a student athlete. So that's my mission, and my wife and I have been committed to education and youth development, so almost 4 decades now. And she has a model. It's a Perfect 10 model, and basically it's curriculum-based, job shadowing, and then it's teaching the kids professionally how to really understand what it's like to have a real job, put 40 hours in a week, or give them a unique experience that they normally would not have.
You were fortunate enough to stay away from the streets enough not to let it swallow you up like it did with a lot of other players your peers. Was it because of parenting?
Without a doubt. I was in college, had my own car, my own room. When I came home, I never got a key. I had to be home at 12 o'clock without any excuses.
And you lived in the Greens when you were in high school?
In high school, yeah. And the thing was that my father was a strict disciplinarian. I think because I was the oldest, I think I got it the most. But, he was good for me, and he was always there. So the discipline I embraced, and I think that's why I got along with George Fasola, too, because these guys were disciplinarians. they allow you to grow, but they also gave you limits to how far they're going to let you in terms of your independence.
So today, if a child or a parent has a child, and they have some of the capabilities, meaning size, and maybe some speed, that extra thing that you're saying is the hard work that you put in.
Yes.
So a lot of parents think their child is going to be the next, sliced bread. Do you think that we overplay sports sometimes because a lot of kids don't have that passion, but their parents seem to have it for them? Do you see that?
Yeah, the parents try to live through their kids, true that.
Right.
But I do think, though, Frank, that sometimes you really have to be a little realistic. And I think the first thing, and I think that's missing that we're trying to fill that gap, is that, education is paramount. And, I think part of you growing as an athlete, you got to grow academically as well. And I think that's the piece where they need to take more of an ownership to. Because once you establish that, then you can segue into saying, hey, you need to put X amount of time into your game. But today, because it's so competitive with social media, all the kids are pretty much talented. But to tell them that they're going to be the next Michael Jordan, that's a tough thing to really accept. And a lot of these kids think that's the only way they can be successful. So what we're trying to do is just really change that thought, that mindset, and say, hey, if you don't be on Michael Jordan, maybe you could be maybe somebody that works for the Chicago Bulls internally. So there's a business side to sports, and I think that's where we need to really focus on. Because let's face it, less than 1% of the athletes make it in the NBA. And when I came up, I was a 26 player pick, the first pick in the draft for the Pistons. But then I had a degenerated knee. Didn't think that was going to happen. But because I had a solid background and had a home to come to with in-laws who were in education and parents who said, hey, look, okay, that was a great experience. Now you need to move. Now you need to go forward, and you have a family. Because I was married at the time. Now you have to have a family to provide for. So, it's essential that you be realistic with what you can tell a young person how far they can go, particularly at an early age.
What part does it play in terms of how long you played more than one sport before deciding? I remember being a sophomore at Kolbe and hoping that you were going to be able to pitch for us your senior year, but it became obvious that you were not going to play baseball because you had to focus on basketball.
And also they had that rule too. Remember, Frank? They didn't allow you to. They had a rule that if you wanted to play in the Dapper Dan,
right,
that you weren't. Yeah, so that I was disappointed with that.
So that was one of the because you were a left-handed pitcher, right?
Yeah,
and outfielder.
You got a great memory. Yes, yes.
I remember because
Terry Truax, remember?
Yeah, and you remember Terry Philo, your coach.
Terry Philo. Terry Philo. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. All right, so you decide at 17. I don't think it ever got to your head because you didn't know me from any other guy in the school. Because you were the star of the state. I would venture to say you probably were the best 17-year-old in the world at the time. I know you'd never think of it that way, but if you really think about it, the United States is the hotbed of basketball, and you were on the cover of Sports Illustrated 18, and you were scoring 40 points a game as your senior year. So in my view, you were probably the best 17-year-old in the world. What kept you feet on the ground? Because you were always a good guy. I never felt around you that I couldn't talk to you, even though I was a sophomore who was a nobody at the time. How is it that you were able to, was that your parents? How did you keep your feet on the ground?
Well, just to go back a little bit, remember when my senior year, I did get the high school player of the United States. I don't know if you remember.
I believe that.
That
doesn't surprise me.
And that's why they picked the Sports Illustrated cover, because I was picked as the high school player of the year.
Oh, is that right?
In the United States. I still have the trophy at home.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So, and I took that as a real compliment to my efforts because.
But how were you able to stay humble is what I'm asking, because that's got to be tough for a kid.
I think, for me, I was always a community guy, and I always try to get along with folks. I always think part of your being is to really, get along with people. And I thought the unique experience I had at Kolbe offered that. When you think about it, it was a couple hundred kids we had.
Yep.
So you learn to develop, relationships, and people were supportive. and you learn to be supportive. In our classrooms, we learn to work together, study together. So I think in order to get things done, you have to work through people as well. So people skills was always something that I thought was important, and I worked on it. And then also my parents kept me grounded. My father, when I really think about it, my father was really the key to a lot of the things that made me successful as a youngster. He really protected me from a lot of the things that could have been pitfalls.
So you chose Ohio U, and I know that was always a question where you were going to go because you had the chance. And you want to just tell a story of how you ended up at Ohio U?
Well, Dr. Yanity, remember Dr. Yanity? He was an alumni from Ohio University. And basically, I went out there at my sophomore year just to visit. We drove down to Ohio University. And I met Jim Snyder. And one of the things that was pretty interesting, and Frank, you know, faith-based, I truly believe in God. I think God is the light of all our lives, you know.
Right.
And out of all the coaches that I met, from the Dean Smiths to the Bobby Knights and everything, Jim Snyder was the only one who talked a lot about the Lord. And that kind of stuck to me, you know. And you ever been out there? It's a beautiful, beautiful. It's like the Madison Square Garden of the Midwest.
Well,
so it's a beautiful place to play.
I followed you into the Mid-American Conference to play football, and I remember you coming on our campus, and you were jeered mercilessly. And I remember coming up to you. I had my Kolbe jersey on. It says, "I'm here to support you." Yeah. And then I actually went to OU to watch you play. I knocked on your door. You weren't home, but I did watch you play. And you obviously played very well, but that was a beautiful campus, a beautiful new stadium, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that it really fit my needs was that they had an excellent business school. They also had, and they were known for journalism. So it just had what I needed, and it was out there in the country. And, you know, coming from the city, it was kind of a unique experience just being out there in the middle of nowhere. You know, Strauss Run was a beautiful lakes, and so it kind of gave me some kind of a peaceful.
That's Athens, right?
Athens, Ohio.
Athens,
yeah.
Ohio.
It was a nice place to be a student, and then I don't know if you know, but my wife gave up a Brown University a degree to come out, and we got married at my junior year. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. You know, like I said, I think God creatively did it for me and me only. So, and we're going on 45 years of marriage, and
God bless you.
So I think so. You know, it was a great experience, and Ohio University offered that, because when you go out there and you see the school, I mean, basketball was it too. Football, we were marginal, but basketball was the big thing on a Saturday afternoon. The whole town, the neighboring towns would be at the games. And you get about 16,000, 17,000 folks there. So it was a nice place to show your talents.
And you went out early. You did very well, obviously. I don't know, you had 23, 24-point average by the time you graduated, right?
Well, I did. It was 25 my junior year, and 23 and 21 something.
So you did just fine.
Yeah.
You went out early, right?
Right. I left early.
And you went to Detroit. You had
well, I was drafted my sophomore year by the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, you were? I didn't know that.
I was drafted by the San Antonio Spurs my sophomore year.
Oh,
but I decided to go back. Okay. And then my junior year, I got drafted by the Memphis Tams, and that's when they folded. The league folded into the NBA, and then I was picked up by the Pistons.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. So
what's the Memphis Tams?
That was the team that was in the NBA.
Oh, it's an NBA or ABA? NBA?
I mean ABA. Excuse me, ABA.
Right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that was an ABA team.
I was drafted by the ABA, and then I was drafted, and then at the time of my sophomore, San Antonio Spurs was with the ABA. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, that's right.
So they were very interested in me. So I think I had some leverage, and then they fold. The league folds, and then it ends up being the NBA.
And then you had issues with your health issues, right?
Oh yeah, the leg. I just did not have an NBA leg. You know, it just, for some reason, I had a cartilage taken out my sophomore year, and I worked hard on building it up throughout my college career. But the NBA, you know, just the requirements for NBA, you know, working out and stuff, it just didn't work out. And it was very tough to accept, because, you know, I knew that, you know.
Yeah, how hard was that to go from being on the top to saying, well, I'm not going to be able to do this?
Well, when I see Archie Clark and I see, you know, Kevin Porter, guys that are like 5'8", 5'9", and they're just going by me, it was pretty frustrating, because I knew I could have, you know, took care of them.
Because you had to play a two guard, right?
Yeah, but I mean, back then you were a guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember, you know, Frank.
Yeah.
If you could play ball, you played any position, but I knew that I was a better guard, but didn't have the
defense,
physical needs to.
You couldn't physically defend a faster player,
right? And that was frustrating, and that's something that as an athlete you have to live with.
Yeah.
And sometimes people come to you and say, "Oh, what happened? What's going on?" You just deal with it. You try to work hard at it, and then after a while, I got released. I tried it, and I went down to the Eastern.
I remember you played here in New Haven. It was
Stanford.
Preliminary game, right?
Oh yeah, we played it's the Knicks. That was the game that I played, a preseason game, but but didn't really get to where I wanted to be professionally. And then after a while, after a couple of years, I said, you know what, I got a mind. Let me buckle down and
Let me
try
ask you about
career.
the psychology of that, because you were our favorite son and you were carrying Bridgeport on your shoulders. Was that and you just stated it, but how difficult was that for you to say, okay, I did my best, and but God has something else in mind for me?
Well, it's interesting you brought that up, because I remember I was still trying to get back in the league, and I got in the car and I drove. We were living up in New Haven at the time, so I was getting ready to get on the thruway, and I turned around and came back, and my wife said, "What happened?" I said, "I think it's time to, go forward with another career." And she looked at me. She said, "You sure?" I said, "Yes." So then we went and got our undergraduate degree and master's, and then went on to the private sector for after 25 years, and just had I think a very successful career in business.
You were spiritually prepared to adapt.
Thanks for Kolbe. That's what
right?
Kolbe
You were
did.
ready to, even though this door closed, you were ready to move on.
Well, I had in-laws who were my father-in-law, assistant principal at Harding, John Hawley. My mother-in-law was the biology teaching at Harding. So at that dinner table, what you heard about was education. So, if you want to contribute to the conversation, you better have your standards up.
So you continued your education beyond college?
We got our master's.
Beyond OU?
Yeah, we got our undergrad. Well, actually, I had to finish because I left early. I got my undergraduate degree in business management and got our master's in finance. And my wife was at my side, and we both did it together. So
that's wonderful.
So it's I feel I've been in a very special relationship with the Lord and also with my family.
Yeah, and so where did you go? Did you come back to Connecticut?
Yeah, I got my undergraduate degree at UB and my master's at University of New Haven.
Where were you living at the time?
We were
when you got back from Ohio,
well, we stayed in Bridgeport for about a year or two, and then we moved out to North Haven, and then we're living in Hamden for almost 30-some years. Yeah.
So you got these degrees that you needed.
Yes.
What was your plan?
Well, the plan was, and I moved on it quickly, was to go. I was working in Greenwich for a special purpose vehicle company called Condec, and I worked there for 2 years as a planner. And my responsibility was to build a howitzer cannon, and I really took that challenge. And then I got a job offer from Unilever. It was Cheeseboro Ponds at the time. And I've been there for like 25 years, and then we retired, and we went into what we're doing now with.
And when you
stuff.
came back, what kind of reception did you get from your old friends after a few years? Frank, Barry, all the people you knew. Did you just jump right back into the
not really,
life?
not really, Frank.
Like? Tell me about that.
I was married,
yes.
So it's a whole new different thing. My responsibility was to my wife and to try to figure out how we're going to make it in life. So we were really focusing on getting our education and then trying to figure out what our next vocation in life would be.
So you were mature beyond your years. When you graduated high school, how old were you?
I just turned 18.
You just turned 18, so you were young anyway. And then you left college early.
Yes.
So you might have been 21, 20 something like that. So you were, and we talked about your parenting, your parents, how they helped you, and your spiritual nature that got you to the point where you were able to maturely move on. So you're saying you were married. You were in a different place.
Yeah, I think when you think about it, you think of all the guys. I think I was the first to get married, and I still had friends. I kept in touch, but the priorities changed. Mm-hmm. Working and trying to move your career professionally was a priority, and also supporting your wife who had a career. And then we were still at the same time working on our education because we were working towards our master, degrees. So Didn't really have a whole lot of time to come back to the neighborhood, but one thing that I always did was at least take time to go back to Kolbe and say hello to the kids. And we've always been community conscious. And then at our church, we do a lot of volunteer with the church. So we felt that we did give back, because I truly feel that when you're blessed, you share your blessings.
Tell me about your feelings about Bridgeport. When you say give back, you've chosen Bridgeport to do some of your altruism or philanthropy. What do you feel for this town?
This town's always been great to me. I mean, ever since I can remember, from Little League to high school to college, Bridgeport, the city of Bridgeport has always been supportive of the Luckett family. And that's one thing I could always say. I mean, as far as the media, they've always been quite friendly. People like yourself always had friends that I could see that I knew that was in our corner, and the feelings are mutual. We always felt that, in your community, that's where you need to really get the respect from your
Are your brothers spread out? Are they in the area?
Well, there's only one in Bridgeport now. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But no.
Who's living in Bridgeport?
Daryl, my brother.
Daryl's here?
Yeah, Daryl's here.
I went
my
to
brother,
school with Daryl, yeah.
Yeah, and Norman's out in Delaware. And Larry's in Hampton.
Hampton.
So,
that's wonderful.
But he was a sergeant in the Army. So, yeah, everybody's doing well.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. And your mom's alive?
Oh, yes.
Living in?
Living here in Bridgeport. Yeah.
In Bridgeport?
Yes.
So then it really is important to you, this town.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I was saying that we've been very fortunate. We've had a wonderful experience with the school system since Dr. Johnson been into play. She's given us the opportunities to really look at some of the things that we saw from the outside looking in, and had the opportunity to really approach some of the challenges that we think that the kids need to meet. And we've been trying to provide like a STEM, the sciences, or trying to work with our SAT preps, ACT preps, or even working with just team building. You might have these basketball teams, but are they unified? Frank.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think your experience is well suited to help these kids? Because here it is, you had the whole world in the palm of your hand, and you've made the best of it. You have had a career in. So some of these kids think everything. If you walked into one of the high schools today and say, "Oh, not today," but I remember when I used to talk to the kids a few years back, they were either going to be a basketball star or a rap star, and there was nothing. They weren't thinking anything else. How do you help? Can you help them because of your story?
Yes, we do, because one thing that I have to say that, and I have to give my wife a lot of credit for it, and I reinforce it, is that we provide internship opportunities. But there's a pathway to that. So we do about 40 to 50 interns, and we have 22 business partners that we work with, and we try to place them with meaningful work. But at the same time, while they're going through their journey, tell us what you think you're interested in. We'll put you in that environment, and then you can find out if you can succeed or not.
But the purpose of my question is, does your story resonate in some way? Can your story help them?
Well, it has so far.
Tell me how that happens.
And it's kind of self-fulfilling, but I think for some reason people remember. And I really thank people like yourself and people that grew up with me to say, hey, this guy, I knew him when, and you can trust him. And I think trust is a big factor. So when we go into the classrooms, or when we go into the after-school programming, or when I have my camps, when I speak, they listen.
And you prove that there's life after sports. You prove that you can be incredibly successful in something else.
Oh, absolutely. But Frank, at the same time, too, I can't take all the credit. The people that are around me have been so wonderful.
So important,
So when I think about talking about professional development, I call Unilever, and then you have the Latin, they have the African-American, Hispanic networks come in, and they're excellent role models too. And they're coming because I worked there and gained their trust. So I think collectively, I can say, yeah, I have had a great influence, but I also had that support.
From your father to Fasolo to Lee to all of
the people that you work with, and I think, and giving myself a little credit, I think I'm trustworthy.
Yeah,
and I have a wife that's very trustworthy. So we live by the rule that God is good, and He's going to continue to be good if you do the right things.
Right. I love that story. And in terms of what you're doing for these kids, what's your hope for your typical Bridgeport youth who may not have all the resources that someone in Westport has. What's the basis of what you're doing with your foundation and with other things that you want to teach these young people?
I always start off by saying, who wants to finish college, not go to college? Who wants to finish college? So I try to plant the seed in their head right off the bat.
That they're already halfway through college.
Right. And then while you're going through that journey, we're gonna give you the water to plant that seed. We're gonna put water on that seed so you could continue to go forward and reach your goals. So we want them to know that they can go to college. Not everybody's not qualified to go to college, but we tell them education is paramount. And then you got to realize that you have a brain that you need to use. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the more you develop it, it gets better. So we try to deal with a holistic approach to education and youth development, not just, throw the ball out there, say play basketball or rah, rah, rah. We challenge them to work on the things that they think that they are interested in. See, because and then reinforce it, you do that by maybe providing core values, and you implement those core values. And if they work on their core values on a day-to-day basis, there's going to be a change. So that's where I think, and I think if you're there all the time too, Frank, one of the things that's interesting, if they don't see you, they don't believe in you. Mm-hmm. But if they see you,
so you have to be present.
Big time.
It's not just running a program. You actually have to be there.
Well, if I tell you to do something and I don't know who you are, sometimes I want to challenge it. But if they see there and they know you're going to be there and they look forward to seeing you on a Saturday, or whenever you commit yourself to, then there's where you build that trust. And then you can start challenging them and demanding things from them because you already proven yourself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean, Frank?
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the Bridgeport basketball scene today?
Well, you're talking to an old school guy. Mm-hmm. First of all, I think the threes are really something that has really taken the game to a level that I'm still trying to understand, because I think it's taken away from the what I consider the whole game.
The X's and O's.
Well, you got forwards and centers out there at the 3-point line. They're not rebounding, so you may not get second shots. I don't want to get technical.
So you think it's hurt the game?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, it would have helped you a lot had the 3-point line been there.
Yeah, but you got people now practicing threes instead of practicing layups.
Right.
I mean, we have a hard time. We talk to them about getting, laying up off the right leg, and little fundamentals aren't being taught because the focus is now threes. And then there's also the zone defense, which I think is helpful. But man to man, if you can stick with your man to man, and work on the speed, and that's what the game's all about. Individual talents, but along with putting in a little structure to it. So,
well, what happened in Bridgeport? In your day, there were so many people going D1. I mean, it seemed like Bridgeport was the hotbed. What happened to this town?
What happened to this town is something that my wife and I are working on right now. I'm telling you, the grades are really destroying these kids.
So they can't even get into school if they wanted to.
We're working. Yeah, they need to have the rankings in the classroom as well as the SAT scores, and then you could predict for a scholarship. And what's happening is that across the country, you got a lot of kids that do qualify. So we're competing against.
That's true. Now there's more training. Now you just can't roll a basketball out there and learn to play. You actually have to. It's almost a year-round thing.
And then you got the European explosion too. You got a lot of people coming from Europe. They're coming in right into college.
But it's true what you say about education, because I remember flying out to Toledo with another player who will remain nameless in this area, and he didn't get in because he was much better than I was, but he didn't get in because his education wasn't at the level.
So I think to answer your question, Frank, I think we got to also go back to parenting and understanding. I mean, not really. It can't be condescending, but
no,
I think
not.
But we need to. PTA was a big thing. My in-laws used to always have the parents come in and talk about where the kids are with their grades and stuff. Maybe we need to get that back to where it used to be. And I'm not criticizing what it is today, because I'm sure that there's a lot of effort, but I'm going back to the parents. Parenting is essential. and they have to really be on the same page. Because it takes a collective effort. You know, it takes a village, right? It takes a collective effort. You can't expect Frank to take care of your son, but you can sit down and work together and put a plan out.
And we've had losses on like Pudgy. We lost Pudgy, and we lost people like him through the years. But I want to thank you for your effort and everything that you're doing. But can you tell people where to call you or where to find out more about or how to contribute to what you're doing?
Sure. It's Walter Luckett Jr. Foundation. I could be reached at, you want the phone number?
Sure, if you want
203-430-0898. We're out of Hamden, Connecticut. And you can you could Google it, and it tells you a little bit about our programs that we have in place. That we invest a lot into Bridgeport, but we're also in 5 other cities, and we have a lot of summer programming that's in place. I would like to shout out to Booster Basketball with Bernie Lofton, who does a great job with the kids on Saturday. Carmen Colon and the group at Raphael Taylor Center, we call it Taylor for Success. So what we're doing is a lot of working with a lot of young people, getting them early and trying to get them to be prepared for high school. So we're pretty much trying to develop a career path for our young people. And I don't know if you ever heard of a gentleman by the name of Dr. Comer. He's out of Yale.
James Comer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's saying if you really want to be successful with young people, you get them early.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're trying to do. And my wife's been really trying to put some other things together that are really exciting for our young people. STEM is a big thing. So we got the little scientist that's working well, and science is huge. And she got a lot of robotics and stuff coming into play. So
exciting.
Yeah. So I've been encouraged by her creativeness and her new ideas to really bring to Bridgeport.
Well, as a member of the Bridgeport community, I want to thank you and Valita, your wife, for all that you're doing in Bridgeport from the bottom of my heart. And I appreciate you guys because I know you're doing it for all the right reasons. And your story is a great one. I hope they learned a little bit about you, about the where Bridgeport was on the map when you were a high school kid. And I just remember winning the state championship your junior year, my freshman year, and being able to rush the court. That was the most fun. I think it was like Northwest Catholic or something, right?
Yeah, you are a historian.
It was at UConn, the old field house.
That's right. Yeah.
That was a great day for me.
Channel 8, remember it was Channel 8, Dick Galliette.
Dick Galliette, yes, that's right. So God bless you and your efforts and your wife, and thank you for joining us on Bridgeport Stories, and thank you, our audience, for listening in once again. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Have a good day.
It's been a pleasure.